Ready to start?
Yes, ma'am, live stream has started.
Yes.
Please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So welcome everybody.
Well,
And special greetings today to all on National Education Day. So
Very right.
here in USA, it is still the 11th. So we are not on time to have this particular celebration, which we hold to mark the birth anniversary of Bharat Ratna Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the first education minister of independent India. A visionary educationist, he was instrumental in laying the foundation of many institutions such as UGC, AICTE, ICCR, Jamia Millia, and the IITs. I feel honored today to welcome Professor Gowrishankar, Director IISER Mohali, and Professor Ramesh Kapoor, originally from our university, Punjab University. Also, I welcome Professor Raj Aggarwal and Professor Sanjay Singh, who have been very kind to join us. Thank you. So I now request Mr. DharamVir, President SPSTI, to say a few words. Yeah.
I have to welcome Professor Gowrishankar ji, Professor Grover, and all other distinguished guests today. We are starting this lecture series to mark the contribution of Maulana Azad ji. I can only add one or two sentences. When I was conducting research on IITs for writing a book on IIT Kharagpur, I came across the government documents and how he pointed the Indian Institute of Technology would be, if there are different IITs, how would they name them? So he was the person. He said that IIT Kharagpur, for instance, Kanpur or Bombay or Madras, would be distinguished by the location. So that is how the IIT Kharagpur Act was passed in 1955 or 56. And this became the model for subsequent institutions of national importance, such as IISERs, AIIMS, NITs, and all these chain of all India institutions. So it's very important that we pay tribute to him and also remember the contribution made by our scientists, professors, and other experts for the betterment of our country, as well as making a mark internationally. So with this, I once again welcome Professor Gowrishankar ji, and I hope we would have his patronage in subsequent events as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DharamVir ji. And now I request Professor ArunK.Grover to say a few words about this program. Professor Grover.
Good morning and welcome to all to the second lecture in the series on visions of institutions in the run-up to India at 100 in the year 2047. Today's lecture on the visions for IISERs is being delivered by Professor Gowrishankar, the present director of IISER Mohali. All of you may be able to recall that when we commenced the series on institution building and nurture initiatives in India on the Teachers' Day 2021, the first lecture on the story of IISERs was delivered by Professor N.Sathyamurthy, the founder director of IISER Mohali. Professor Sathyamurthy had co-authored the book with the same title, and this book had been released at the platform of Indian Academy of Sciences. The first Indian Institute of Science Education and Research started to function only in 2006. That is nearly 50 years after the initiation of Indian Institutes of Technologies in 1950s. However, the recognition that the research in fundamental sciences are the backbone of good technology had happened in government circles in the early 1960s itself. As we just heard, today's lecture commemorates the birthday of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He had got the UGC Act going in the year 1956 for us. And after the UGC Act, many things happened. For instance, the National Council of Educational Research and Training came into being in 1961 by amalgamating 7 other national entities. In 1963, NCERT had initiated the National Science Talent Search Scheme, first in Delhi and later all across India, to identify good school pass-outs who could be supported by scholarships to pursue careers in fundamental sciences in colleges and universities of India from BSc Part 1 onwards up to the PhD level. The so-called NSTS scholarship scheme can be considered as the previous avatar of 21st century IISERs in India. The NSTS scholars were enjoined to take admission in identified good undergraduate colleges in different states of India. After completion of their BSc degrees, they could move into university departments for their masters and thereafter continue to do PhD either in the universities or in the national laboratories of India. Once in a year, the NSTS scholars were got together in a given subject and from a given batch, they were got together for a 1-month summer school in a good teaching and research center of India. However, for a variety of reasons, the NSTS scheme had a limited success. Less than 1/3 of the 350 students selected each year were completing PhD degree in India. The scheme was therefore modified in 1980s. NSTS transformed to NTS, and the condition to pursue fundamental sciences was actually removed. Now, the IISERs are there. IISERs have been there now for over a decade, and they have established themselves roughly on the same lines that the IITs have established themselves as a brand globally. More than 20 international corporates today are headed by IIT graduates. And it is my belief that on the occasion of 50 years of IISERs, IISERs would be recognized as institutions which are supplying PhD scholars, not only for the good institutions in India, but for the good graduate schools globally. Even today, a large fraction of the IITians passing out are going to the graduate schools all across the globe. So if the NSTS scheme produced one Venki Ramakrishnan, who went on to win the Nobel Prize. Venki Ramakrishnan was an NSTS scholar in physics in the year 1968 batch. It is my personal hunch, and I'm actually quite confident that 50 years from now, there would be at least 10 Nobel laureates of Indian origins who would be graduates of IISERs of India. So with this very positive hope, I won't be there to greet them as and when this happens, but I'm very hopeful this would indeed happen. So with this, I conclude my today's remarks. Back to you, Kea.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I request Professor Sanjay Singh, Department of Chemical Sciences, IISER Mohali, to introduce today's guest of honor. Of course, he needs no introduction to people like us, but Professor Sanjay Singh, please introduce Professor Ramesh Kapoor. Sanjay Singh.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Kea. And Yeah, so a very good morning to all of you. As Professor Grover mentioned, such high expectations from IISERs. So, and today's program is about visions of institutions in Northwest India, and focus for today is IISER, and particularly in IISER Mohali. And as you know, these IISERs are very young institutions for basic sciences, and we are being looked at with expectations to play very key role in nurturing students and young scientists for the future of science in India. So, and it is my pleasure also to introduce our guest of honor for today, Professor Ramesh Kapoor. And we are privileged to have Professor Kapoor as our guest of honor, not only because of his vast experience in chemistry, but also for various other reasons. So he has a very strong connection with IISER Mohali, and not only because he taught the very first class of the first batch of 25 students at IISER Mohali in its transit campus in September 2007 in Chandigarh. He was also the first Dean of Academics at IISER Mohali. And he also was the chairman of the Joint Admission Committee in 2008 for the admission for BSMS students. In that time we had 5 IISERs. So, and he remained associated with IISER Mohali till somewhere around mid of 2016. And Professor Kapoor is very well known and very accomplished in organic chemistry. And he studied chemistry at Punjab University, both his BSc and MSc in 1963 and 64. And then he proceeded to McMaster University in Canada for his PhD, and which he completed in 1968 under the supervision of renowned Professor Roland Gillespie of valence shell electron pair repulsion theory frame that is used to predict the molecular geometries. And after returning to India after his PhD, Professor Kapoor began his career as a lecturer in Regional Engineering College in Srinagar in 1969. And then he moved to Punjab University in 1970, where he was promoted to the post of reader in 1980 and became professor in 1990. So after his superannuation from Punjab University in 2005, he joined Rayat and Bahra Institute of Engineering and Biotechnology in Mohali, and then he joined IISER Mohali in 2007. So he has almost 5 long decades of career devoted to teaching and research, and then he has supervised a large number of PhD students, MPhil students, and MSc students for their research. And he has been part of various exchange programs, particularly with Canada and Germany. And with these few words, I would thank Professor Kapoor for his time and joining in today's program. And I would like to request Professor Kapoor to kindly address the audience.
Thank you, Professor Kapoor. We are waiting to hear you eagerly.
Thanks, Professor Sanjay Singh, for your very kind words of introduction to my long career with chemistry. Good morning to all of you. Honorable Shri DharamVir IAS and President of Society for Promotion of Science and Technology in India. Esteemed Professor Gowrishankar, Director IISER Mohali, Professor ArunK.Grover, formerly Vice Chancellor, Punjab University, Chandigarh, Professor R.K. Kohli, Vice Chancellor, MIT University, distinguished members of the Society, faculty and students of IISERs, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I wish to thank Professor N.Sathyamurthy, the founding director of IISER Mohali, who very kindly associated us in the initial build-up of IISER Mohali. Myself, Professor Mahajan, and Dr. Jagdeep Singh, incidentally, who is now working as registrar of IISER Mohali, joined in June 2007, as already told. Our association lasted for 9 long years till June 2006. And I'm happy to say that the institute by then had its own campus and very strong faculty in all subjects, main as well as allied fields. I wish to recall a few observations, which in my opinion have made IISERs come up as a brand name in the past few years. IISERs, number one, I feel most important is IISERs function as autonomous, self-governing institutes with no outside interference. IISERs conducted right from the beginning their own common and national level entrance test for admission to 5-year integrated BSMS programs. This attracted highly committed, bright students at the national level to pure sciences, and no compromise at any level was made on the merit of these students. The BSMS program is noteworthy because it is highly flexible. Students for the first 2 years study all the subjects. Biology students have to be well versed with maths, and math students have to be well versed with biology. Only in 3rd year, the student had the freedom to choose a subject of his or her choice for specialization in the program. The program itself was very highly flexible, and we had the option of having a dual degree at that level. IISERs, I feel, selected very outstanding faculty after rigorous screening, visit of the shortlisted candidates to the institute, and finally through the selection committee procedure. In my opinion, IISERs have attracted very bright scholars back to the country who were otherwise studying in the West as a senior postdocs or research associates. Finally, I feel that the strongest point is that each IISER has been able to create state-of-the-art infrastructure, both for teaching and research labs. I feel very happy in saying that IISERs are a brand name to reckon with, and students and faculty are giving tough competition to top educational institutes, both at the national and international level. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Kapoor. And now I request Professor Raj Aggarwal from IIT Ropar to introduce today's speaker. Professor Aggarwal.
Hello, good morning. So it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Gowrishankar. See, of course, he does not need any introduction, but yes, some of the things probably people may not know about him. So he's one of the best and renowned medical microbiologists of this country. And he has got a very unique combination of educational degrees. He did his MBBS, and after that he chose to do PhD. And he did his PhD from University of Melbourne. And after spending some time abroad, then he returned back to the country and became a scientist and a group leader at CCMB, Hyderabad. And then later on in 2000, he was offered a position of directorship at the Center for DNA Fingerprinting and Diagnostics, Hyderabad. So currently, Dr. Gowrishankar is a director at the IISER Mohali, and his broad theme of research is to use genetic and molecular biology approaches to understand various physiological processes in bacteria, and which includes mainly osmoregulation, solute transport, RNA processing and turnover, maintenance of genome integrity, and the interplay between transcription, translation, and DNA replication. And I think maximum papers is published from India. So many papers he has published in general bacteriology, and each year I think he published about 4 or 5 papers. And this work was whatever work he did, he is highly recognized, and it may be evidenced by the fact that in 1991 he was awarded the Shanti Sharoop Bhatnagar Award, and one of the highest award of the country in science, or some people call it as even a Nobel Prize of India. And he is the fellow of all the 3 science academy of the country, and he's been bestowed with the FNASC, FNASC, and he was also honored with the J.C. Bose Fellowship. And most importantly, his work was highly recognized, not by the scientific community of the country, but even the government of India, and he was honored in 2013 with the Padma Shri. So now I offer to Professor Gowrishankar to educate us about the vision of IISERs. So over to you, Professor Gowrishankar.
Thank you, Professor Aggarwal, for that very comprehensive introduction. And now I request Professor Gowrishankar to proceed with his lecture.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Professor Kea and Shri DharamVir, I'm delighted that despite the fact that you are not in India, that you have joined us today for this presentation and for this program. Professor ArunK.Grover deserves a special mention here. He's been extremely persuasive in asking me, who is otherwise a very reluctant speaker, to give this talk to an audience which I feel knows more about IISERs than I do myself, right? All of you have actually seen this institute being conceived and IISER Mohali itself growing in front of your eyes. I'm also very happy that Professor Sathyamurthy is in the audience, as well as so many friends, colleagues, and my own faculty colleagues who are here today. I must also mention that as I go through the slides and I share some of the thoughts I have had on the vision for IISERs, you will see that many of my slides, which I must say have been created independently of what Professor ArunK.Grover said, matches with what he said almost entirely. And similarly with what Professor Sathyamurthy had spoken about a year ago when he gave the talk on the story of IISERs. So that's actually, so I need to see how to move. Yeah, okay, so now I have got okay, so this is to just remind the audience of the talk on Teachers' Day last year, 2021, where Professor Sathyamurthy was the speaker on the story of IISERs with Professor Ajay Sood, who is currently the scientific advisor to the government of India, as the guest of honor, right? And what Professor Sathyamurthy had spoken about was information that has also been published by the Indian Academy of Science in this book called The Story of IISERs. And right away, I'll acknowledge that many of the pictures that you will see in my slides have been taken from Professor Sathyamurthy's presentation itself. So just a quick recap on the IISERs. They are relatively young CFTIs, and 5 of them were set up in the period between 2006 and 2008. So these were in Pune, Kolkata, Mohali, Bhopal, and Thiruvananthapuram. And 2 more are very young, and they were set up in 2015-16 at Tirupati and Behrampur. So the rationale for their setting up, the first point I would use is to describe a neologism. So it was an attempt to polynomialize what has otherwise been a binomial distribution of the aspirations for higher education. So the current, what is continuing today, but what has been seen in the last 20 or 30 years is that most students who are bright and are leaving school either choose to or are persuaded to enter the professions of either engineering or medicine, either on their own or by their parents and their families. And exactly as what Professor Grover had said, the National Science Talent Scholarship Scheme between the 1960s and 80s had given an opportunity for students not only to opt for, but also to have doors opened to a career in science. So one could say that that many people who entered the scheme were lost to science, but we could also say that many of them became leaders of research in different fields in the country. And I'm sure all the people of my cohort and the people who are a few years senior to me would recognize the statement that many of the people who populated and became leaders of research and teaching in the country in science were beneficiaries of the Science Talent Scheme. When I speak about opening doors, I might recount my own personal experience. I was one of the recipients of this scholarship. And when I went to Ferguson College for admission, the principal said that all admissions are closed and I wanted a room in the hostel. He said, there is no room in the hostel. Then when he realized that I was a scholar, a supernumerary seat was created and I was the only hosteler who was in the day scholars batch for that, right? And I would also credit this scheme for, at least in part, for my decision to return to research after I had completed my degree in medicine. The last sentence of this, I think, is a hard-hitting one, but I seriously believe this is true. Because of the closure of this National Science Talent Scholarship Scheme, I believe that the country lost at least one generation of the brightest minds to enter into science fields. If I were to add one more, there are various groups of people and communities and so on. It turns out that, at least it's my opinion, that that it is the state of West Bengal where this craze for engineering and medicine is less than that in other parts of the country. And this is what I believe accounts for the vast majority of our current leaders in science or faculty colleagues and so on being from this single state of the country. I also believe that as we look into the future with the establishment of the IISERs, other states would also become equally represented as we go ahead. So what is the current structure of the IISERs? So we have, as others before me have mentioned, these are very strictly modeled on the IITs, but they are focusing on the science courses. And their strengths from the very inception, as Professor Ramesh Kapoor has mentioned, have included a strong foundational program in all areas of science for the students and several practices which are now the components of the National Education Policy 2020. These include a choice-based credit system for the semester programs, an organic overlap between education and research, and an encouragement for students to work in labs and take part in internships during their study program. 5 IISERs, these photographs are just representatives of what they are today, have successfully transitioned to young adulthood. They are in their teens now. And I think we should take a moment here to acknowledge and credit the people who conceived the idea of IISERs, in particular the Scientific Advisory Committee to Prime Minister of that time, chaired by Professor C.N.R. Rao, the government of that time, which accepted the proposal and put the money where the thoughts were. And of course, the predecessor directors of all these institutions, which have worked very hard to bring it to a stage where they are today. So we can now go to ask what is in the future for the IISERs, and what these pictures, again taken from Sati's presentation of last year, is to just re-emphasize how important hands-on training has been perceived for the education in the BSMS programs of IISERs. So before we go to the future and what we can think of it, I just want to raise one issue which I feel is somewhat unique to the Indian situation, where universities are being seen as verticals. It's a very unique Indian notion. So these vertical subject-specific universities are becoming substitutes for the very old traditional transnational concept of, for want of a better word, I call as universal universities. The very fact university indicates that it is universal, and a vertical subject-specific university becomes an oxymoron. But this is what we have today: medical university, technological university, agricultural, veterinary. And whether we like it or not, IITs, All India Institute, are all belonging to this category. And indeed, IISERs also fall into this category. What is happening in the last couple of decades is that such universities are becoming even more narrowly defined. We have a forensic university, a petroleum university, space tech, triple ITs, and including the NIPERs, right? So they are very, very, very narrowly defined, which argues against the notion of a university itself. And if we look outside India, role models for such narrow definition universities are not too many for undergraduates. So we have places like the MIT, ENS, École Polytechnique, and perhaps one or two others. But this is something that we need to keep in mind as we look to the future of the IISERs. So again, as both Professor Ramesh Kapoor and Professor ArunK.Grover said, the IISERs of today can be seen as what the first generation IITs were in the 1970s. In their teens, raring to go, but still to establish themselves with the reputation that they currently enjoy. So what we can see for the next 25 years is a recap basically of how the IITs have grown and prospered. So IISERs can also expect to grow in strength, stature, and reputation. And again, a point which both Professor Ramesh and Professor Arun made, this would come from the achievements of our alumni, right? So each of our institutions have been graduating people for the last perhaps 10 years, and they are still very young, and their achievements, I'm absolutely sure and confident, will hit the country in a very good way in the next 25 years. So in terms of what IISERs will be doing 25 years from now, I believe that the bread and butter activities at the institute can be expected to continue in much the same way. In other words, the basic science subjects that are being taught here will never become obsolete. They have been with us for now 300 years. And one condition for it, and there is no reason to doubt that this condition will not continue to be fulfilled, is for the faculty through their research to keep up to date with the latest trends and advances, and thereby incorporate appropriate changes in the course curriculum as we go along. So there is no need to change the basic structure, but to, of course, keep with the trends and where the boundaries of scientific knowledge exist. So there is a famous American saying, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. And this is what I would submit that the IISERs should try and follow. But the IISERs can also serve as catalysts for the expansion and improvement of higher education and sciences in other colleges and universities, especially in their vicinity, primarily as role models in some sense, and also actively involved in outreach activities. So these are some of the new and expanded areas of activities that we can think of for the coming years. So perhaps move into what people would call as applied areas of science, which are able to generate a category of graduates who can be directly employed in by industry, by government, and so on. So these could be in data science, economic science, climate change, engineering science. Many of these are being done by some of the IISERs. Pharma, forensic, standards. So for example, in the Bureau of Indian Standards, electronics, statistics, science communication is something that has a very good future in the country as the general level of education of the population increases. Science education, IPR training. To also move into areas, to focus research into products that can change the world, inventions, IPR generation, licensing, and consultancies. And one of the ideas of, again, the NEP, which the IISERs are intending to adopt, is to recruit professors of practice for these kinds of areas. Again, the related point would be to encourage entrepreneurship through the establishment of a TBI or an accelerator or a tech park. What I had mentioned in an earlier slide, so the IISER is today a vertical university model, and there should be an aspiration to move to a universal university model, either by expansion in-house or by tie-ups with other institutions. Enhance collaborations both within and outside the country, and as I said, create hubs of high-tech facilities for research for the neighboring institutions and within the IISERs. Expand outreach, both offline and online, for schools and colleges, and incorporate additional novel ideas of the NEP, which is, as far as teaching is concerned, multiple entry and exit options, credit transfer across institutions, online courses, and the admissions of international students. So what I've said so far is very similar to what I think many of you would be thinking about, and both Professor Arun and Professor Ramesh have actually vocalized today itself. What I thought I would do in this slide and the next is to also think about or address what are the likely headwinds against the IISERs, which we should be prepared for and perhaps take steps to protect against or try to circumvent. And I divide these into two categories: the forces from below and the forces from above. So what I mean by the forces from below is represented by the aspirations of our population. So we are a country emerging out of poverty. For all of us, for many of us who have been born in the 1950s or earlier, we know what the country has gone through. And the fundamental aspirations for the population who have lived in poverty for generations is really freedom from hunger and illness, acquisition of material goods and wealth. And to understand these aspirations, it is not correct for us to look at countries like UK and USA, the universities of Cambridge and Oxford and Harvard and Stanford, because these countries attained these basic necessities generations earlier. And I just have this set of images to say how India has moved, simply as we look at the transportation changes that have occurred, from the bullock cart to the cycle rickshaw to the bicycle, and then to now what I would call as the middle class transportation of the motorcycles and the scooters, the two-wheelers. And clearly, these people are still aspiring, because there is so much more in transportation that so we can have motor vehicles. Even today, in any flight, if you go, if any of us takes a flight within India today, 50% of the passengers in that aircraft are first generation air travelers, first time air travelers. they have traveling for the first time. That's the way that we are as far as aspirations are concerned. I can also anecdotally state here how these aspirations are affecting the faculty themselves, right? So I'm sure Professor ArunK.Grover will know, and Professor Sathyamurthy and all the seniors in the audience. When we joined as faculty, we were happy to have a two-wheeler. And in the CCMB, when I joined, there were parking spaces for just 10 cars. For the institute hasn't grown more than double in the last 35 years or 40 years, but the number of cars has increased to more than 100, right? So this is the way aspirations are in the country. So what is the role model then? If UK and the USA are not our role models, we must look at Singapore or South Korea. And what we see there, and so this is what we can try to understand for ourselves. The bright students there opt for careers in finance and management and law, right? Because that is where the aspirations are rapidly fulfilled, not through a career in science or research. And perhaps a generation or two later, these countries will become like the USA and UK, where the students and their parents choose to study the subjects of their interest. So the parents permit the students to choose whatever they wish. Engineering is not a favorite option in the USA and UK and Australia. I think people should realize this. It's not the craze that it is in this country. And for our own country, it may take a generation more than that. So we need to wait a little longer before these subjects like engineering and medicine and management will continue to hold sway. At this point, it's quite a coincidence that today's newspaper has a very interesting advertisement. I try to hold it up. I don't know whether you people can see this. This is today's Times of India. And it says, no one should do this to a child. And if I take it up, it's a Bournvita ad, right? So please go and see this. I'll just read it out from here. It's the front page, the cover page of the Times of India. Bournvita presents Forced Packs, a daily reminder against forcing children to be something they are not meant to be, right? So effectively, this is the beginning, I think, of a, so if you can see this as an advertisement, you can see this as beginning to touch what I would call as the upper middle class, which is people like us, where I think we are now beginning to tell our children, okay, choose what you wish to do. But for this to percolate down to the population is perhaps going to take at least 1 or 2 more generations. So this is what I call as headwinds against IISER's forces from below. We would still be only getting a certain proportion of students who are choosing to get into science. Many of them are actually the very bright ones who may have an interest in science, may still be persuaded by their near and dear to opt for careers in other professions. So what about forces from above? These are a little easier to understand. And so this is the, what are the priorities and attitudes of the government? So if we are looking to the future, I think these are things that we need to think about, right? What will the budget for education and research? I think all of us have been talking about it for the last 20, 25 years. The percent of GDP that is spent on research in the country hasn't changed from 0.8%. To contrast it, so I mean, the comparison, of course, is with the People's Republic of China. It was in 1990 identical to India, right? And today, 25 years or 30 years from that time, it is vastly ahead of us as far as basic research in India is concerned. We are very proud when somebody publishes a paper in Nature or Science, and the whole country put together perhaps gets 7 to 10 papers in Science and Nature per year, right? In China today, there are 3 papers per week, 2 to 3 papers per week in these journals, right? So we are at least 20-fold behind what they are. What is the scientific temper of and within the government? will the ministry be obsessed with placement percentages and packages? We are beginning to see that for the students who are graduating from IISERs. So these are the headwinds from above. We are constantly telling the government that the measure for the success of IISERs is not by how many of them become placed in jobs after they graduate from the BSMS, but measure the success of IISERs 10 years, 15 years thereafter. How many of them are coming back to faculty positions in the country? That is what I meant when I said we have lost a generation, right? These people are now coming back. They're coming back in mathematics and physics because this is where the postdoc experience that is needed is much less than it is for chemistry and biology, but they are coming back. And what are the government's ideas on privatizing education? In other words, how much are they going to spend on public institutions such as IISERs? Right? So so this is my last slide. So rather than end on a negative note, I thought I'll actually say that we can look to a very bright spark for the future of the IISERs. And to explain this spark, I will go back to what my first director of CCMB constantly used to say. And again, all the people born in and before the 1950s will know, right? Until 30 or 40 years ago, India could be called as a 80-20 country. 80% of the population had no access to resources, to education. The illiteracy rate we were talking about was 60 to 70%. Infant mortality rate was 15%. Maternal mortality rate was 6%. More than 50% of our villages had no electricity. So these were all 20 to 30-fold higher. So whatever the country was looking at, Professor Arun.Grover was talking about T.V.Ramakrishnan. Each of us of the generation of the born in the 50s and earlier, we belong to that 20% category, right? So it is whatever we see today is actually the achievement of this 20%. And so we have an ability to a quadrupling of the effective pool size because the 80% now is beginning to gain access to these resources. And it is from this 80% that we can have a very great hope that the future talent can be tapped and harnessed. These are the people of the future, right? Any one of these children are likely to be a Nobel laureate, not perhaps in 2047, but perhaps in 2060. This is what my hope is. And IISERs can definitely play a role in this. This 80% will be the population from which IISERs will benefit as we go ahead. Thank you. So this slide is also taken from Professor Sathyamurthy's presentation, and it is a credit to the photography club of my institute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Gowrishankar, for this very thought-provoking lecture.
Thank you very much, Professor Gowrishankar. You have really put the things very comprehensively and very, very concisely. So I may share with the audience what Professor Gowrishankar refers to at 20%. Coincidentally, K.R. DharamVir, Sathyamurthy, and myself were also NSTS scholars along with Professor Gowrishankar from the same times, few years earlier than him. But this is what India has been from the generation that was born immediately after independence. So the generation that got born in the liberalized economy of India, that is the one which will do us good as the time progresses. So I am very, very hopeful that what Professor Sathyamurthy, what Professor Gowrishankar showed in the second last slide, that there are going to be Nobel Prize winners from the presently lower middle classes and the rural population of India, and the Society for Promotion for Science and Technology as an NGO has been created to see that we somehow catalyze and facilitate these young children of India to realize their aspirations as time goes by. So SPSTI joining hands with the chapters of the Science Academy, joining hands with the Indian National Young Academy of Sciences, joining hands with the faculties of the IISERs of India is the right thing. DST also has recognized this, and we hope that we shall not fail the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, for these remarks. And now, if Rajni Bhalla is there, she will conduct the question answer session. Rajni, are you there?
No, ma'am, she's not there.
Okay, so please.
Let me start by inviting Professor Sathyamurthy first.
Maybe
Oh,
while
yes.
Rajni comes in, maybe in the meantime, I can compliment Dr. Gowrishankar for such a one.
You lost your voice,
Thank you,
Professor
Arun.
Sathyamurthy.
I must compliment Shankar for working presentation on the future of IISERs. And can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, now we can.
I compliment
Maybe you can turn off your video. It may.
thought-provoking, concise and thought research.
Sir, your connection is interrupting.
I'm in a place with a very poor connectivity, attending a conference. So I have turned the video off.
Yes, sir. Now it's better.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Let me repeat once again. I compliment Shankar on the concise and thought-provoking presentation. And I agree with him that the IISER is on the right track. And I hope the headwinds will not disrupt our flight and we would get support from above and below. Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
Thank you, sir. And now, if anybody would like to raise a question or say something, please raise your hand.
So there is one question in the chat box. You had pointed out the discontinuation of the National Science Talent Scholarship Scheme resulted in loss of generation of scientists. What is your opinion? What is your opinion on the discontinuation of the KVPY scheme recently? So so I guess my response to that would be that an understanding of the contribution of the Science Talent Scheme has been possible only retrospectively, right? As the scheme was going on, it wasn't clear that it was going to be successful or that it would give so many people who came back to set up research careers in the country. So the KVPY scheme will also have to be judged in retrospect. It is unfortunate that it has been discontinued. Whether the Inspire scheme will be a equivalent substitute for that is something that one needs to look at. But I think the KVPY scheme did have a very key role to play in encouraging students to come into science. And it is somewhat unfortunate that that has been discontinued. And that is one of the reasons why I put the point as the headwinds from above. What is the current attitude of the current and future governments in terms of science education and research? Yeah.
Can I add a couple of sentences here?
Yes.
It is unfortunate that KVPY has been discontinued, but I am glad the Inspire is much larger in scope and reach. And to some extent, the Inspire compensates for the discontinuation of KVPY. And I hope the Inspire is not affected in near future.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. And there is a hand raised by Professor Kant. Professor G.S. Kant, please unmute yourself.
Yes, thanks a lot, Professor Kaya, for giving me this opportunity. The vision provided by Professor Gowrishankar is really excellent about IISER. I would like to add a little to the, he has already mentioned about the role played by Professor Sathyamurthy and Professor C.N. Rao in the developments of IISER. I have been at IIT Kanpur since its very inception, and I would like to add that the genesis of science importance being given to science education was given by the first director of IIT Kanpur, Dr. P.K. Kelkar. He brought in, I would say, top scientists in the very first, I would say, faculty appointments was in the science departments. Professor C.N. Rao, Professor Venkateshwarlu in physics, and Professor P.N. Kapoor in mathematics, top professors in the area of physics, chemistry, and maths. And all these departments at IIT Kanpur were given equal opportunities in terms of resources as well as faculty strength. They were given equal, I would say, status to engineering education. And in fact, I know some cases where students prefer to go in for science rather than engineering. A couple of students prefer to go in for science. And you are aware, Shri DharamVir and Kaya are already there, our alumni from IIT Kanpur in science, as well as Professor Sathyamurthy, who have been there. In fact, the elements of education at IIT Kanpur is seen really as far as at IISER Mohali is concerned. Thanks a lot. I just wish to point out a few facts. I hope the audience will appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Kent, for bringing up those memories. Professor Grover, please go ahead.
So let me use today's occasion to air some things which I hope the advisors of the present Prime Minister would take note of. The Prime Minister has two advisors, one in the science and the other in the social science, who are both physicists and who started pursuing physics immediately after their schooling. Of course, one of them did go through the doing an engineering for a year, just as Professor Gowrishankar said that he went into the medicine and came back to the fundamental sciences. So, you know, what is happening currently is our knee-jerk reactions, stopping KVPY, temporarily halting, I hope so, giving the awards like Bhatnagar awards and all other awards in the country. So recently what has happened is the Department of Atomic Energy and all other science departments have stopped continuing awards which they were giving even for best thesis awards. These awards were being funded by the alumni associations of those institutions. But the government of India, one directive from Government of India has stopped all such recognitions and nurturing of scientists in the country. There is also a thought now trying to stop the government support to the science academies of India, engineering academies of India, and other professional bodies of India. When India became independent and A.V. Hill's report was the basis of to start to develop independent India, one of the recommendations was the science academies or professional bodies should be autonomous, independent of the government, but they should receive support from the government of India, because their autonomy is important, because otherwise you will not get the objective opinion, but their sustenance in the kind of India that we were at the time of independence. Our corporate sector had not developed to that extent. Our publications of scientific journals had not developed to that extent that these could be self-sustaining. American Physical Society, American Chemical Society, Indian Institute of Physics in London are self-sustaining. But our institutions, similar institutions, are not self-sustaining, and they need support either from the government or the corporate sector, acted by the government via the corporate social responsibility and so on and so forth. What has happened recently, I am tempted to call it that this is like the demonetization of nurturing and recognizing excellence. This ought not happen, and all the professional bodies in India, through the advisors of the Prime Minister, should convey to Government of India that please do not take knee-jerk reactions and knee-jerk decisions. If you wish to replace anything, please bring out an alternatives while you stop something. If KVPY is to be stopped, it should be spelled out how the objectives of KVPY would be met via the present alternate schemes or the future alternative schemes. Just stopping them is not the right thing. And I think the SPSTI, which is working in partnership with these chapters of the science academies, and which have been encouraged by Department of Science and Technology to engage with the chapters of the science academies and other academic institutions, the SPSTI should hold. I would sort of recommend to the president of SPSTI to hold a panel discussion on this topic, and we should submit the recommendation of this panel discussions to the Department of Science and Technology, as well as send its minutes to the State Councils of Science and Technology all across India, so that a coherent opinion is voiced back to the decision makers, such that the improper decisions do not happen and a negative impression should not permeate through the younger generations of India. I have taken a bit too long, but I just got tempted to say all these things. Thank you, Kia.
Thank you, sir. Very nice you spelled out what we have been wanting to say. But thank you, Professor Kohli, please.
Yes, I just wanted to, agree with the suggestion, very good suggestion from Professor Grover. We must take the lead, and we should be proactive in even inviting the academies. INSA and especially already started this, INAS is already there. We can invite Bangalore Academy also and have panel discussion and make certain recommendations. This is really very unfortunate that the right step, the right sentence was that knee-jerk reactions, and institutions they have overreacted in support of it. I do not know the reasons. Even in Punjab University, a very small token of this award that I had instituted. Somebody in Punjab University said that we have now to stop it. I said, why? Why are we to stop it? The money has already been given, and the interest is also already getting into. So why do we stop it? I don't allow you to stop it. So what I mean to say is that all those little awards also, these are just the motivating steps from the government, from the institutions. They are also trying to stop it. So I agree with you, Dr. Grover, we should take it up, this issue. Thank you so much. And if you permit me, may I say something on Dr. Gaurishankar's lecture also. I'm really pleased, Dr. Gaurishankar, to listen to this lecture, and each of these points you have put forward are good. This NST and instead of universal knowledge in the name of the university, the customized systems which have come up in India, it is somehow, I also feel that it should not be so. You know, the university is a sports university or a law university or, you know, like this you have already said, and I agree with you in totality. So the institutions are known by the leaders, and IISER is a fortunate institution to have leaders like Dr. Sathyamurthy and Dr. Gowrishankar. The vision that you have shared with us is really good. I appreciate it and applaud it. Thank you so much, Dr. Gowrishankar.
Thank you, Professor Kohli. Professor Dua, please unmute. Dua sahab, unmute kariye.
Earlier. Thank you very much, madam. Can I ask a question, please? Professor Gowrishankar, it was a wonderful presentation, and very enlightening. But as you were reading today's Times of India's wonderful green pasture, my mind was going towards today's Tribune, where, you know, and it's really saddened me, where the headline was that no takers for post-graduation course at regional center of GNDU, which were established at the cost of 15 crores. It reads, the regional campus in Gurdaspur has seen no admission in MTech Electronics, Computer Engineering, MCA from 2018 onwards. Similarly, several courses in science, technology, and life sciences at the main campus of GNDU are zero admission for the last 4 years. You'll believe that the tentacles and the roots have to grow horizontally in this vertical system of universalization of education. But when these regional centers established with much fanfare, they are failing. In fact, it is also the failure of some system or that, where these national institutes can also cope up. I don't recommend that they should be taken over by these IISERs or something, but there should be a sort of an Herculean effort to save these on which a plethora of money has been spent, and then there is no taker of these courses. The reason is 1.80 lakhs fees for these courses in each subject of science. Seven courses in the main campus of GNDU have closed: human genetics, genetic engineering, forensic sciences. What is the future of these wonderful buildings and laboratory equipment which has been created here? Please, can you throw some light on this or comment on this?
Yeah, I think each of us has our own ideas on these matters. The way I see it is that effectively families and are taking decisions for their children and are seeing what is likely to be economically stable for their children in the future. I think that's how decisions are being made, rather than on the basis of the student's own interest. This is where I think the fundamental, and that's what the this ad is coming to. So where, I think Professor C.N.R. Rao had mentioned it, Professor Sathyamurthy will laugh when I say this. So he's used the word techno-coolies, right? And so what we are faced with today, and that is where the analogy to South Korea and Singapore come up. Service sector jobs are being seen as a clear route to economic stability for families. So Professor C.N.R. Rao has often wondered whether India has done well through the software revolution, or whether it has in the long run being injured in the process. But I think that's
I remember personally belonging to that age group born before 1950, that Professor Rao visited Guru Nanak Dev University in 1969-70 when it was to be established. And he said this will be Makkah of biological sciences. But today, I'm so sorry to say that there is so much lopsided development. It's a deserted village in the greenery of Punjab. And that is at the cost of other institutions, very big, which are coming with big names, but the potential to absorb those in instant potential, in nascent potential, earning capacity is almost going down. It will take 16 years for a graduate after going through the IISER cycle to tell to the society that I can earn that much where I can afford some physical comforts also. Close your eyes and see that in 10 years, similar will be the fate of Punjab University, as Professor Kohli has also pointed out. And maybe the Punjab Agriculture University, where something is brewing because the new political party. But if IISER grows, it's a lopsided development. And because the filters at the IISER level for entry of an ordinary person is very, very low. That's what I mean. That's what I want to convey. I may be wrong, but at the age of 75, I find that the things are not that futuristic, enlightening as we project that to that.
So I will just respond at one point, which is to distinguish the graduates coming out of IISERs from the graduates coming out of IITs. So I mean, it's a very simplistic distinction, but I just like to convey one small message in that. So when somebody comes out of an IIT, they are immediately employable, right? Because they come out, similarly when they come out of a medical college. And that is both an attraction, but it is also an end in itself. What happens for IISERs is the expectation is that the people who come out of it will in turn generate a generation of students who will be, so it's more an exponential growth, but that will take time, right? So between arithmetic progression and geometric progression, there is always a sense of time. So an exponential growth will take its own time before it begins to be seen. That's what I think IISERs will. So we are saying that the graduates coming out of such institutions will in turn go to other institutions to create new avenues for study for our population of students.
No, sir, if you take last 5-year data, 11 regional institutes of Punjab and Haryana have closed down totally with a lockdown. Mm-hmm. My fear is that when they were conceived, they were shown to be very fit. If these absorptions are going, what will be the future of these regional institutes which were made as the advantageous routes of the main university, and that's also going down.
Sure.
This is going down, money going down the gutter and lopsided development of the elite class rather than the general class. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah, Dr. Yakhmi wants something.
Dr. KP Singh has raised his hand.
Also Dr. Yakhmi.
Yeah, so Professor KP Singh, after which Dr. Yakhmi. KP Singh ji, boliye.
Actually, I posted my query in the chat box for everyone. We have had this trend of creating a lot of verticals, as Professor Gowrishankar pointed out. We also have a trend of creating centers and so on. The centers are kind of verticals within the universals. So I was thinking that maybe one could consider having maybe through a legal route or legislative route that the universals which are already there can acquire these verticals back and then have a much broader base where easier migration of students and faculty is possible, rather than through collaborations which have not worked out so well because they require MOUs and various other things and so on, and become very bureaucratic. Because the trend, as you've seen in Harvard, Stanford, is always to set up centers now, but within the universal system. Okay, and not as independent. We have had the, we've been very proud of spawning a lot of verticals. Now we have too many verticals, too many specializations and so on. Like, let's say, we take the example of a nano institute next to the IISER campus, for example, as an independent vertical in Mohali, rather than being as a part of IISER. Maybe it would have been better as a center within the IISER system and easier. That's just one example, and something for people to consider and ponder about, and so on. We have acquisitions and so on. So since we already have a lot of verticals, universal system could benefit by acquiring those, and rather than having to grow more and more similar verticals in every system. That's just one thought. Maybe I set it out, people to think about and so on.
Thank you, sir. Professor
Dr.
Yakmi. Okay, Grover
Yeah.
Sawa.
Yeah, Dr. Yakmi first.
Am I being heard because my video is not on? But
Yes, yes.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm more or less speaking to Professor Gowrishankar today for the benefit of all of us. I'm very glad he raised the word headwinds, whether from above or below, because very rarely we have discussed such, ideas or problem creating phrases. I went to CCMB, where I think Professor Gowrishankar had been, about 20 years ago. I was totally surprised to look at the setup of the labs. In CCMB, all the instruments belonging to the institutes are kept at the center. I hope they are still kept that way. And people sit in 3 wings emanating out of the central part. Any student can go and book any instrument by writing in the register and so on. So it is a perfect sharing methodology of instruments. We always say money is not there, but when we have instruments, we don't share. And who is responsible? I am 76 now. I would say the people who are now 50 to 80, they only have created these walls between instruments and monopolizing instruments. Let me mention, TFR allowed the use of anything by any student. They can write to them. They'll even give them hostel space, and they can do their experiment and go. Hardly any credit is asked from them. So that is very magnanimous of it. It can be done even in India also. So I normally say life of an instrument is 10 years, whether you lock it in the cupboard or you let others use also. So that's the luxury we have. Let me lastly mention, there was a phase in South Korea and China. They hardly had any big instruments. China got its first accelerators in 1985. Now it may have 100 or so. Similarly, getting a squid magnetometer in South Korea was a huge luxury when people had at least half a dozen squid magnetometers in India. And let me, last example, the Albert Ferd, who got the Nobel Prize for GMR in working at Laboratoire de Physique des Solides in Paris, Orsay. He used to go every day to Thomson Labs to do MBE for his sample making, because he didn't have MBE. When at the same point we had MBEs in India, just idling in some people's labs. So I'm sorry to say all this, but I think it has triggered my mind to say, please, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have been raising these questions for time immemorial, but there seem to be, nobody seems to have come forward with any solution. Thank you anyway. And if there are no more questions, Facebook पे कोई questions आ रहे हैं क्या? Maipal ji?
No, ma'am. There is no any question on Facebook, ma'am.
Okay. So,
Rajat was there in the audience. Does he want to say anything from Punjab University?
Sir, I already put my question about this KV Kishore Vigyanik scholarship schemes. So that was my first question to Dr. Gowrishankar. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
So I had my
Yeah,
first
we had
question about the fellowship scheme.
KVP,
So
correct.
I think I enjoyed listening to Dr. Gowrishankar. There's a lot of learning for us to think about and ponder on the issues you sensitize us. Thank you, Dr. Gowrishankar, for excellent talk.
So maybe I'll just, so there's one question that I'll just try to address. So this is students in rural areas lack knowledge of our premier institutions. Do IISERs have any provisions for budgetary support to facilitate student visits? The answer is yes. Each of the IISERs is making attempts in this area, but they can do much more. But I'm happy to say that a large number of the faculty are committed to such outreach activities and have been participating very enthusiastically in such activities. Perhaps in a limited way, but the spirit is there for that.
Thank you, sir. So if there are no more comments or questions, I will request Professor R.K. who is Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Mohali, and also currently the President of Chandigarh chapter of NASI and life member of SPSTI. Professor Kohli, can you please?
Yes, please. I think I am audible.
Yes.
Dear Dr. Gowrishankar ji, Dr. DharamVir, Dr. Kaya, Professor ArunK.Grover, KP Singh ji, Ramesh Kapoor, Dr. Dua, and Dr. Kent. On behalf of the SPSTI, NASI, INSA, and INEAS, I express our gratitude and thanks to Professor Gowrishankar for such a nice talk on the vision of IISER Mohali. Thanks to Dr. Ramesh Kapoor. After many years, I have seen you, sir. Pleased to see you here, though virtually we could not meet physically. And Dr. Javed, he was also seen here. At the moment, I don't think he's there. Dr. Sanjay Singh for introducing the guest of honor and the speaker. I am also thankful on behalf of SPSTI, NASI, INSA, and INEAS to all those who have attended this good lecture. I believe this series that Dr. ArunK.Grover and Dr. DharamVir have initiated is going to be good, thought-provoking. Many of the institutions in this area are focused on higher education, especially through research. The collaboration between these institutions is also going to pave some better way. The crux that Dr. ArunK.Grover's initiative was initiated is going to prove a bit better. But my only worry is that especially focusing on Punjab, with my experience of Bathinda, I find that many of these schools in Punjab do not have even science as a subject. Many of the institutions with mathematics is just a symbol mathematics. There is no such teaching of mathematics. And I visited many of these institutions. I tried to, ETC channel news. School students and teachers and the parents, they have come on the roads saying that there are no teachers of science. This is an issue which we really need to focus on. Earlier also in one of my lectures, I did talk about it, that we do have a lot of potential. When I interview candidates for a selection as faculty members, so many very good scientists. But since there are no positions, their career gets stopped. Second thing which I felt was that in many of the institutions, the salary in the private institutions, the governments, they have, they say that privatization, as Dr. Gowrishankar has also pointed out, privatization of education. And in that, privatization of science education is really tough. Governments do not support private institutions, even for funding of projects. You all will be surprised, shocked to know that even for getting a connection of water for a private institution, we had to pay 2.44 crore just for connection of water. The Inspire faculty which we select, earlier there was normal ground for all government funded or privately funded institutions. Now they have stopped giving fellowship amount to the Inspire faculty people if they join private institutions. If they join regular institutions, centrally funded, IISERs or state universities or
आवाज नहीं आ रही आपकी.
We can't hear you.
Mr. Kohli, we lost your sound.
I think he has a network issue.
Professor Kohli, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
I am so sorry, but from here it is not muted. Am I not audible now, even now?
You are, now we can hear you. I think we lost you for about a minute.
Oh, I don't know, but from my side, there was no such issue. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say that on a holistic approach, we need to really think about. Individually, we are doing very good for our own institutions. But anyway, thanks to you. Thank you so much. How to do it, how to converse, I don't know. Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible now? I have switched off my video. Even now I'm not audible?
You are
audible. You are.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to say that we need to think on these other issues. And wish you all the best of luck. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Gowrishankar ji, for a good sharing of the vision of IISER. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kohli.
So, Kia, may I inform everyone that the November 25 lecture on the vision for PEC, we have to postpone because Professor Sathya is busy at the PEC Fest, which has just been announced from 25 to 27. So our lecture on the vision of PEC scheduled on November 25 has to be further postponed. Our next lecture would be on the Nobel Prize in Medicine on 26th of November by Partha Mujumdar.
Yeah, if I may, I would like to announce a talk that IISER Mohali is hosting, which is by Professor Arnab Bhattacharya, who is director of Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education in Mumbai. And this is about efforts at experiments and efforts in science outreach, reaching out to remote schools and students who do not have good connectivity. So this will be available on our YouTube channel as well as in person. So I welcome all of you.
You please mention the date and time.
Yeah, this is November 15th, 4 p.m.
Thank you, Professor Bagla.
So it's a physical lecture in our auditorium, right?
It is a physical lecture in lecture hall complex. It is not in the auditorium.
In the lecture hall complex. So those, any of you who would like to come, please, you are most welcome to come.
I had already posted the notice on the society.
Yes.
I will post it again.
Professor Jasjeet, is it on Zoom also?
It will be on YouTube and this. We are not opening it on Zoom.
Okay, okay. I'll come personally. I'll come physically.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. And this lecture will soon be available on our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting
Thank
you
you.
all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you to all.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Gamal,